Chris Griffith is an award-winning journo with a passion for technology, with 30 years of media reporting in print, online and broadcast media. Chris, thanks for joining us.
Great to be with you, and great to be with you on the cultured Gold Coast as well.
Tell us about these Meta glasses. Because when I saw them, I thought, wow, I could be really trendy even at my age. But tell us about the drawbacks of them.
Yeah, well, it's kind of like an old a problem that's resurfaced. I remember back in 2014 covering Google Glass. It was an earlier, if you like, attempt at this. It suffered a lot because the technology was not there. The internet speeds were slower, the processing speeds were slower, but it did uh, create problems in the privacy area, which is what we're going to be talking about. In particular, people were worried because you could take easily photos and videos with these glasses on your face. There was a lot of concern about uh, people going into private spaces, intimate spaces, and places like bathrooms, and photographing and creating inappropriate material. And if you go back 11 years, that was quite a big issue in the media. It got a lot of coverage, the issue of privacy, and it was one of the reasons that sank Google Glass as a retail product. It survived as an industrial product used in warehouses and places like that for identifying pallets and stuff like that for a fair bit longer, but even that has disappeared. Now, the Ray-Ban glasses now, Meta glasses, are a much more sophisticated product. They have a lot of capability. Like you put them on your face, you can pair them with your phone, and through your glasses you can answer calls, take photos and videos, send texts, listen to music, do language translations, have it visually translate signs if they're in other languages. For example, if you're a tourist, and being a Meta product, you can also live stream on Instagram. Particular, I think, advantage is for the visually impaired because it can read text and it can offer visual descriptions of what you're seeing through the Be My Eyes app. Now, this is a volunteer program that Meta has where you can join up. You've got to be 17 or over, and you volunteer your services to look through what people are seeing and describe what they can see. So it's not AI, it's actually having human volunteers perform this task. It's a good thing, but I might add that for a multi billion dollar company, it'd be nice if they paid these people to do that sort of work, but they're not. You have to be a volunteer, and they're depending on people's goodwill to get involved in that. None of the features that I described really can it do any better than what your phone can do. It's really the convenience of them being packaged on glasses and the fact that you're hands free and it's using what you can see because it's got cameras where you see. The photos are not as high resolution. They're not necessarily centered because the camera's at the edge of the glasses, the video's at the other edge of the glasses. But there's a number of benefits and there's a number of dangers associated with it that, in my view, are not just a matter of instructing Meta as to what to do, but I think really the governments have to look at legislation around smart glasses because the biggest problem with smart glasses is going to be that what Meta can do, scammers and the black market can do as well, and they can go for hell for leather in breaching people's privacy. You could rein Meta in, but you've got this problem that this is a fantastic product for scammers and for people wanting to get involved in crime, and I can go into that. The issue of privacy is a big part of this, and the wearer can be the victim or the perpetrator. On the perpetrator side, so you've got the ability to take videos and photos. there's a tiny light that turns on when you're taking a video, and Meta says, well, that's giving people a warning that you are taking video, but it's pretty small. And there's a lot of people who wouldn't see it because of either their eyesight or not being close up enough to see it, or they're being bright sunlight and they don't see it. So they can do that in settings where they can basically spy on people, in, as I said, in bathrooms or eavesdropping on conversations in restaurants, or taking video of people without them necessarily knowing. That is one issue. But another one is really around just these glasses themselves. If you have the right software, of you walking along the street and people coming into view in your glasses, which means into view of the camera on it, and being able to be identified within a few seconds. Now, there was an experiment done, and it was reported about October last year, of these couple of Harvard students who wore these glasses. They had two or three other pieces of software running back where they were students. They got images of the people that they were passing in the street. Those images were sent back straight away to their student area, and quickly a computer could identify who it was, and with a bit of rummaging around, get their addresses or their workplaces or details around them, and give that information back to the person wearing the glasses. Now, that has big implications, because if you were harassing people or trying to stalk people, if there were women in the street, that you could find out details, you could follow them, things like that. And that caused a stir around October last year when that experiment was published. But now we've got another issue that's come up where the wearers are more the victim, if you like, because when they quite innocently take photos or video or use it for voice, then from what I've read, Meta can keep recordings of that for up to a year and use that for training their AI models.
Mm.
Now, Meta has a long history of what I regard as inappropriately using people's data to train AI models. If you go back 2 or 3 years ago, there was a famous Book Street database, which was, I think, roughly about 200,000 pirated books, including novels by Australian authors who are very upset at this. And Meta was using their books to train their AI models in without any consultation, without any recompense, and what is arguably a big breach of copyright laws, as well as, yeah, as anything else. Now, they got away with it. The courts in the US have been pretty lenient on that, because the US copyright law is pretty weak compared to even Australian law on this. So because they've got away with it, then they feel that they can get away with this as well. And that is, if you wear these Ray-Ban Meta glasses, then whatever you take as a photo, whenever you speak, and when you make recordings, then it's their data to use for training their AI models. And that's, I guess, part of the deal when you buy a Meta product, is that, oh, your data is their data for training. So we've got all those issues running together, and it's a lot to take in. But that's why these glasses have, as I said, good points, particularly for people who are vision impaired. I think they can be, with used in the right way, to be a great benefit. Because they look great, and I think you said that. They look pretty stylish and that, but I'd be very wary about them.
My guest is a Gold Coaster, Chris Griffith. How do we safeguard ourselves from the intrusion into our own private lives, which no one has any right to be there?
Well, I think you've identified the problem pretty well. I've always taken the view that technology, good or bad, is a reflection of human endeavor and human behavior. It just extends, particularly AI. So humans can be good or bad, or there can be good or bad humans. And AI kind of extends that, or amplifies it a lot. Some of the leaders of these multi-billion-dollar tech companies feeling that they're above the law and using the political process to get their way above what the law provides. And we've seen the behaviour of people like Elon Musk and Mark Zuckerberg, who in their own way are kind of circumventing law, and that hurts a lot of people. As I mentioned, in the area of authors, we've got this problem of copyright breaches and so on. We have to be very wary about their activities, and I think it's necessary for governments to be firstly tech savvy because they've got to understand what is happening. They're often behind the eight ball in terms of understanding the ramifications of new technology, which means you first got to understand the new technology and you can then see how it's being used for the better and for the worst. And then being bold enough to regulate where it's necessary. Europe's been pretty good in this area. It's been the boldest in terms of its regulation. In some cases, European consumers have an advantage over those in other countries because of this. I mean, it's Europe that forced Apple to kind of drop just using their proprietary little plug-in Apple thing and use USB 3 like every other manufacturer. That's under threat in the US because the likes of Meta and Tesla no doubt expect favors from the US government. I think Australia is pivoting a bit. I don't know what way it'll go, but I think it needs to take to be assertive, to look after the interests of Australian people and uh, and require regulation, not to constrict tech, but to make sure that these bad effects of tech don't happen. Now, just coming back to our issue with the glasses, I think governments around the country have to really get across smart glasses, not just meta glasses, but what they can do, because anyone after meta glasses are out there, anyone can make illegal versions of them which have no regard for privacy. Scammers could, and they could walk around the street and get all sorts of detail about the
Mm.
people that they see in the street. So Meta needs to be told to turn off these features where they're just gathering data from users with glasses. At the very least, turn them off and require users to agree to that. But I'd say probably not even have them because it really opens up a Pandora's box in privacy
Mm.
breaches. In the long run, we've got to just say to people that when they publish anything about them and they put the moniker on it as public rather than like a Facebook post, you've got the choice of it, being just to you, to being your friends, or or the world, then you've just got to be really careful about what you describe as public because public means anyone, anytime, possibly now and in the future, will be able to access that material. That could be, your personal details, your address, your job history, something that you've done in your past that you're not particularly proud of that might affect you getting work. You've got to then take the responsibility to rein in what you actually allow to be public on the internet because it means everyone, not just the people around you in your country. Now, it means everyone, anywhere, can get that information and a new application that may not even be there. But I think we need to keep encouraging our national governments around the world, whatever their ideology is, to get across technology and be bold to regulate those areas of technology that are going to harm the public. And they govern. I mean, governments are supposed to be there for the good of the public, number one. And so we need to do that. And people need to be vigilant, as I've just said. Another issue with the smart glasses is it does create a lot of complexity to even walking down the street if you've got all this tech on your face. And I think even among people who are into technology, there's a time when you might want to just walk the dog, um, walk in a park,
Mm.
go somewhere, and not be worried about whether what you see is going to end up in a database or be worried about constantly taking video of everything you do and everywhere you go. It
Yeah.
becomes you get out of contact with the real world, which I think there's a time to break away from that. But yeah, smart glasses are going through a bit of a fad. I think in the long run, hopefully the shakeout will be for the good uses. They'll be they'll be used. I've got a relative who is vision impaired, and we've been
Mm.
talking about whether these glasses could be very good for her. Let's separate the good from the bad.
Hmm.
Have government realise that there's going to be all sorts of weird and wonderful versions of glasses when this technology, as this technology becomes available to scammers and crime groups and that what they can do with it. So we've got to take that on board. We've got to be assertive with our government, which we're in the process of electing again right as we speak.
Yeah, that's another story. Chris, thank you very much for your time. Chris Griffith,
It's
must
been
do
a
more of
pleasure.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah, must do more of this. We could talk about the beaches and great pubs and restaurants that we should all go to at times here on the Gold Coast.